In September 2021, amid the struggle that was COVID-19, a global hookup of world leaders took place.
Today, we join our nations in a next-generation partnership, built on a strong foundation of proven trust.
It was a new security pact between Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States. AUKUS.
This will be one of the most complex and technically demanding projects in the world, lasting for decades and requiring the most advanced technology.
3 like-minded democracies forging a new alliance, stronger than ever before.
Thank you, Boris, and I want to thank that fellow down under. Thank you very much, pal. Appreciate it, Mr. Prime Minister.
We designed AUKUS to deal with the threat and measured what an ambition had to be commensurate with the threat we faced. Now, that is a big leap, but what's the alternative?
From the outset, AUKUS was about strengthening Australia's strategic deterrence, with nuclear submarines the most powerful tool.
The very fact you can't see a submarine adds a certain difference to them because, of course, the enemy never knows precisely where they are, particularly with a nuclear submarine, which can be deployed at range for many, many months at a time, very covertly. If you think about the world today, there is not one building, not one vehicle, not one person, not one ship that can't be targeted pretty quickly and pretty lethally. Submarines, in a way, remain the last bastion and the ability to remain hidden.
Kevin Rudd's bid to rule the waves is backed by the biggest defence build-up since the Second World War.
But the push for a more robust submarine defence goes back to 2009 and the Rudd government Defence White Paper.
It is as plain as day that there is a significant military and naval build-up across the Asia-Pacific region.
And that was the first time an Australian government really said we need to increase our submarine capability.
Marcus Hellier is a leading expert in defence and intelligence security.
And every subsequent Australian government has essentially stuck with that vision of having an improved, more potent submarine capability. But over that period of time, the answer, the solution, has changed many times.
It's the biggest Australian government contract in history.
In 2016, Malcolm Turnbull awarded France a deal to supply 12 diesel-powered attack submarines.
This is securing the future of Australia's Navy.
We went down that pathway for 4 or 5 years until Prime Minister Morrison decided that the answer was not conventional submarines at all, but nuclear submarines. So we dumped the attack class plan.
Now, the reason for it was very clear. I mean, the strategic circumstances had changed, even in such a short time. My concern was that contract was drifting in its performance.
Then Prime Minister Scott Morrison received internal advice. The French sub-deal was problematic. But for the French, the program was proceeding as planned.
I was assured, including by President Macron, that things would be fine and they'd be on track.
But for the top brass of the Australian Navy, Boris Johnson says it wasn't only about delays, it was also about the French technology.
Australian admirals came to our admirals and said, look, I mean, these things are going to be too noisy, they're diesel-powered gizmos, and we think they're going to be obsolete, and plus they're not being delivered on time. Can you help us with some nuclear propulsion units, because you've got them?
I was quickly forming the view that we were going to have very expensive boats that would be obsolete before they even got wet, and in an environment which was rapidly changing. And really, the only serious option in that situation was frankly to go the moonshot.
That moonshot was AUKUS. Do you remember the first time you spoke to Prime Minister Boris Johnson or US President Biden and had the confidential discussions about this and what response you received?
I do. I spoke to Boris after I'd taken it through the NSC and our National Security Committee and had fulsome, unanimous support, and put it to Boris on a call, but you know he was in at hello with this.
No, AUKUS till I die. That was my catchphrase. And when Scotty and I were talking about it in the early days, we had to keep it a bit under wraps.